My name's Anthony King and welcome to the Benedikt Björn, Bavaria, Germany. This is the home of Carmina Burana. This is where the monks in the 13th century wrote the manuscript for Carmina Burana, which Carl Orff put music to in the 1930s and is now known around the world as the world famous Carmina Burana. This is where that was actually born. And I thought it would be a great place to tell you about my new book, Michael Jackson and Classical Music. Michael Jackson incorporated not only Carmina Burana into his live shows, but he incorporated so many works. He incorporated about 20 pieces into his live shows, and about 15 of those were heard in the stadium, and the rest were heard in live broadcasts. It's really interesting when you take a look. We don't really think of Michael Jackson as an expert in classical music, but he was. In fact, he exposed more people to classical music, just say on his history tour, on one tour, than 5 years at the Carnegie Hall. That's an unbelievable fact. The Carnegie Hall has a capacity of over 3 venues of about 3,600 people. They have about 250 shows per season, and if you take that over 5 years, Michael Jackson performed to that number alone on his history tour. And if you add up all of the time in the history tour that Michael Jackson performed classical music on that stage, it comes up to well over 4 hours. And if you really listen closely, you will hear choral works, symphonies, traditional folk songs, military fanfares, marching music, all types of classical music within his live shows. And we're going to take a look in detail at every show, all the music he used over his career in the classical genre. And I'm going to fill this book with world exclusives. I'm going to give you some world exclusives in actual fact today, and I'm going to take you inside the monastery so you can take a look at the place where Carmina Burana was actually written. We're standing in the courtyard of the Carmina Burana Monastery. So if you went to Michael Jackson's history tour, and you went to every single show, you would have heard this piece of music 164 times. Now, this classical piece of music was indeed used on the history album and on the live performances, but you won't see it credited. In fact, you won't see it mentioned anywhere. This is a real world exclusive. Michael Jackson used a great piece of music, the beginning piece of John Philip Sousa's The Stars and Stripes Forever. This is a brilliant military march, and if you're a military man, you probably know the piece. And in fact, if you're not a military man, you might not know the name, but you certainly know the melody of the song, because the piece of music later was placed on the chant, "Here we go, here we go, here we go." So there's a world exclusive for you. After 20 years, a piece of music that Michael used on the tour, which hasn't been publicly named. Most people know that Michael Jackson used Carmina Burana to introduce his Dangerous World Tour, but what most people don't know is that in actual fact, Michael Jackson used 4 pieces of classical music to introduce his Dangerous Tour. 24 shows out of the 69 did not use Carmina Burana. What's really interesting is he'd always sneak in a great piece. If you were in the Olympic Stadium in Munich on July 4th, 1997, you would have heard St. Matthew's Passion by the great Johann Sebastian Bach. And just think, you're going to a pop concert, yet you're hearing that wonderful piece of music over the Olympic Stadium speakers. And we take a look in detail at each piece Michael used in my book, Michael Jackson and Classical Music. And I hope you enjoy. So we're inside the monastery at Benedikt Björn. It's